That's right, I am talking about Exploring Eberron, written by Keith Baker, the man himself behind Eberron. And I was sent a copy of this for review. So if you want to see what's going on, my thoughts on it, and also potentially enter a chance to win a couple copies of it, stay tuned. Eberron. Have a good bit for it. What's going on, folks? Ted from Nerd Immersion here. So let's jump over to the DM's Guild real quick so I can show you it there. So first of all, two good things. One, it's available now. It's already in a Best Adamantine Seller. It only came out, oh gosh, on the 30th. And I think it actually launched a little bit later than that. But either way, Best Adamantine Seller. So crazy. It is $29 for the PDF. It's pretty extensive. We'll talk about that. And you also have the option to get it in hardcover, which is not something that's often offered with a DM's Guild. It is $59.95 to pick it up in hardcover, and it is $64.95 to get both the PDF and the hardcover together. I will put a link to this, an affiliate link, in the description. So the way that works is if you do decide to go pick up either the PDF or the hardcover, and you use the link that's in my description, a little portion of that makes its way back to me and the channel, which is awesome if you feel so inclined. It has 5 stars for 111 ratings. That may be the best reviewed supplement on the whole entire DM's Guild that we've ever done here on the channel. So you can see it's brought to you by Keith Baker Presents from keithbaker.com. And it is fully fleshed out with art. It's fantastic. And you can even see here is a copy of the book, what it would look like next to your limited edition copy of Eberron Rising from the Last War. So I'm not going to dive too much into what's here on the DM's Guild. Let's go ahead and, sorry, there's a bug here. Let's dive into the book itself. So as you can see here, it is 249 pages. That is roughly the page, basically the page count of a typical D&D book that you would buy. Also, again, the art is phenomenal. Why don't I shrink myself down a little bit here in the corner so we can get the full scope here. We have a little bit about the planes in Eberron and how they're handled here, just a little map, all of the, behind the scenes stuff, and then let's dive into the contents. So for the purposes of me going through this, I don't want to spend, I do want to spend so much time on the lore and that stuff. But if you are someone who's picking this up and you want to use this as a means to learn about Eberron, well, great. That's what this book is for. Chapters basically 1 through 5 are nothing but ways to expand your knowledge of Eberron without having to go back and buy all of the old 3rd edition and the few 4th edition books and read up on it. We have one book, Eberron Rising from the Last War, that is your only introduction to the world of Eberron. It has a bunch of player options, and it has lore, but it's only so much because it had to include adventures and player options all in one. This is probably the best resource you're going to get that's going to just fill this all out. And again, it's written by the guy who created the world, so makes sense. So you see we have chapter 1 is all about discovering Eberron. You can see it talks about all the past ages, what's going on recently in the history, the last war, magic in the world, how artificers work in the world as well, the different races of Eberron, the different faiths of Eberron, because again, this is a whole unique world with its unique system of deities and whatnot, so that's explained. Different locations here. It says uncharted domains. We have different areas of the world to explore. The planes of existence. And then probably the thing I'd say that's one of the easiest things for me and you to discuss is chapters 6, 7, and 8. 6 being character options, 7 being treasures, and 8 being friends and foes. Again, I'm also not going to go through the entirety of this because it's 249 pages in total, and there's a big chunk. I mean, just looking at it, there's 17 pages of races, there's about 10 pages of treasures, and about 15 pages or so worth of monsters. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'll give you a couple samples as we flip through, but let's go ahead and scroll down. Plus, I mean, look at this art. Look at this Warforged. This is phenomenal. With this is probably a Warforged Druid with flowers growing out of the joints and stuff. Fantastic. And again, as I said, the art in this world, or the art in this book, is just amazing. There's a ton of full-blown art pages. You can see there's an entire timeline history here. Another thing to consider is if you are someone who's building your own homebrew world, take a look at something like this document and say, okay, well, Keith Baker built the world of Eberron, and this is his most recent dive into it in the world of 5e, and what kind of information he thinks people should know. This is what he would put together, and then you can not necessarily use that as a means to judge your own content that you're creating, but say this might be something you strive towards. We have a bunch of random tables through here. We're probably going to skip ahead. Also, fun fact, we do have bookmarks, as I've stated in previous videos on the DMs Guild. If you don't have bookmarks in your document in the DMs Guild, what are you doing? That's like base stuff here. You can see we even have some other things kind of peppered throughout here. Right here's Breath of Salisbury. This is a common magic item. We have siege staff, artillery stuff here. From the last war, arcane explosives. We have actually a bunch of really cool, just mundane stuff sprinkled in. Well, not mundane necessarily, but sprinkled in to the lore sections. Look, there's even some new cantrips here. Force Blast and Concussive Burst. We can look at these right here. Force Blast, evocation cantrip, range of 180 feet. Making a ranged spell attack against a target. It takes a d8 force damage. So it's essentially just like a Ray of Frost, but with a longer distance, and it doesn't reduce their movement speed. And then we have Concussive Burst. Choose a point within range within 60 feet. Each creature within 20-foot radius sphere centered on that point must make a con save. On a fail, they take 2d4 force damage and are deafened. And again, that's a first level spell. On a success, they take half damage and aren't deafened. And when you cast a spell at a second level or higher, it does an additional 2d4. So that's just like a fun little first level spell that's thrown in here. So you really do need to read through the whole book to make sure you capture everything. Again, here's an arm bow for Titan weapons. We have backgrounds and specifics about how to deal with the last war. And then there's just all sorts of cool stuff, right? Like losses in the war. You've lost your faith, you've lost a limb, whatever. Magical ambiance in the world, how common and uncommon magic items work. So common magic items, it lists them right here. And then down here in uncommon, Eberron Rising from the Last War only calls out common magic items, but at the DM's discretion, uncommon magic items can also be purchased in major cities. Such items are more expensive. The price is typically between 200 to 500 gold pieces set by the DM based on the power and quality of the item, but selection will be far more limited. Just because you could theoretically purchase a cloak of protection doesn't mean one is always available in that particular shop or town. However, an exceptional weaponsmith may create a +1 weapon for sale or take commission to create one. A large House Civis enclaves often sell sending stones. Ultimately, it's up to the DM to decide what sort of common magic items are available and who is selling them. Look at this. We have some more cantrips right here, right? We have Ondair's Silent Sanctum, where you create an invisible sphere of energy within a 5-foot radius. Until the spell ends, it moves with you. Creatures outside of the sphere have disadvantage on perception checks made to hear any sounds from within the sphere. Magecraft is another divination one. It's a divination cantrip, rather. You must be proficient with artisan's tools used as the component. Once before the spell ends, you can gain advantage on an ability check. So there's this kind of stuff, and I actually don't know if these are all compiled when we get to the the character options later on, but we can go ahead and take a look. But like I said, there's a lot here, and look, the art is so good. There's a lot of really good things here to take a look at, and I would recommend you read through the whole document. Really, again, not even if you're just playing in an Eberron game. If you are, absolutely do so, but if you're not, you can just get a lot of good information from this. So let's go ahead and jump to character options. So we have some backgrounds here. We have a new Changeling Traveler background. What's cool is it gives you a shift weave garment, which is magical clothing. Let's see, it can embed shift between 5 embedded patterns. This is an especially useful tool for the Traveler as a different persona for each town. It is invaluable for an agent of the King's Citadel or an entertainer who's shifting from a session at a common tavern to a more, upscale place. This background Changeling Traveler would get you Deception and Insight proficiencies, Thieves' Tools proficiencies, Skin Cant as a language, which we'll talk about in a second, and then again, Shift Weave, a Trinket, and a Belt Pouch. And then they have Fledgling Persona. What's your fledgling persona as a changeling? Obviously, you need to be a changeling to have this background. But let's look at Skin Can't. As a traveler, you learned a secret language that allows you to silently convey messages to fellow changelings. This is an exotic language that can only be spoken, quote, by changelings, though members of other species can learn to understand it. Skin Can't uses shifting patterns of scars, tattoos, and pigment. This allows you to convey a short message, a concept that can be expressed in 6 words or less, to anyone who knows the language and who can see you. Typically, the message is something you maintain as part of your appearance. For example, in crafting your image, you might add a pattern of scars that tells other changeling travelers, "I need help," or "Everything I say is a lie." You can also use the language to have a conversation, typically by manifesting symbols on the palm of your hand with someone who is within 60 feet and able to see you. The shifting patterns can be noticed by other observers within 60 feet. If you wish to keep the conversation discreet, you can hide it with a charisma deception check, opposed by the observer's wisdom, perception, or insight check. If you fail, it means the observer notices your shifting patterns, though they don't understand the meaning. And then last, your background feature for this one is right face for the job. Let's see. When you're approaching a new community, work with the DM to determine if there could be a persona with roots in that place. As long as you play that role, you can usually obtain modest food and lodging and gain access to local gossip. In addition, when you encounter other members of your clan, you can ask them for help or information, provided this doesn't place them at risk. However, this is a two-way street. If another member of your clan approaches you with a reasonable request, you're expected to provide assistance. And then it does have a list of personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws for this specifically. And you can see we do have a couple other backgrounds. And then we have some interesting stuff. We have different Azimar types. So we have, I think we'll probably go through, we have a whole bunch of different Azimars. We have different elves here, dwarves, and so on. So we'll grab a couple and then we'll move on. So let's look at the Azimar. Court Azimar appear among the elves of Eberron and combine the celestial gifts of the Azimar with a long lifespan and fey blood of the elves. They have the Azimar traits from Volo's Guide to Monsters, plus the following. Your dexterity score increases by 1, as opposed to whatever the subrace would do. You mature at the same rate as an elf, but can live up to 1,000 years. You have fey ancestry, advantage on saving throws against being charmed or put to sleep. Trance, speak, read, and write Elvish, and then there's guidance from the past. Starting at 3rd level, you can use an action to draw on your connection to your ancestors. Misty tendrils flow around you, whispering advice only you can hear. Your transformation lasts for a minute until you end it as a bonus action. During this time, you have advantage on all wisdom checks and saving throws. I don't know if that's supposed to be wisdom checks and just all saving throws, or all wisdom checks and wisdom saving throws. That is once a long rest. So this does seem to be a little bit more powerful than the existing Azimar subraces, but it, again, fits the world of Eberron. We have a Seeker Azimar. Con goes up by 1, and you get your Shroud of Life and Death. You can use your action to awaken power in your blood, causing a nimbus of crimson energy to flow out from you. It lasts for a minute or until you end it as a bonus action. You shed dim light in a 10-foot radius, and at the end of each of your turns, one creature within 30 feet of you takes necrotic damage equal to half your level, rounded up. In addition, if you or an ally within 30 feet drops to 0 hit points without being killed outright, you can use your reaction to preserve them, causing them to drop to 1 hit point instead. When you use this reaction, it ends your transformation early. And you can do this once a long rest. So I really like that one, because not only is it giving you Constitution as a bonus, which is nice, it's giving you damage that doesn't damage you as well, like that one Azimar in Volo's Guide, the Scourge Azimar, I believe. And it lets you potentially heal somebody at the cost of ending your transformation early. Now we have a variant Fernian Azimar. This is to replace the Celestial Resistance and Lightbearer traits. Again, Celestial Resistance is Radiant and Necrotic Resistance, and Lightbearer is, I think, the ability to cast the Light cantrip. This is going to give you resistance to Fire and Necrotic, arguably way better. When you use your Radiant Consumption trait, you deal Fire damage instead of Radiant damage, and then, produce Flame instead of Light. And then there's this Mabaran Azimar here. Replace the Healing Hands and Lightbearer traits. As an action, you can make a melee attack against a creature within reach. On a hit, the target takes necrotic damage equal to your level, and you regain hit points equal to half once a long rest. And then, Toll the Dead as a cantrip. Both of those are fantastic options that I really like. And this is something that I've been saying for a long time that wizards should do, is this kind of stuff, these variant options, take all the rules you already have established and just breathe new life into them. You don't necessarily need to make a whole new book with new options. Just give us variants for the old stuff, and that'll make things more interesting. Let's keep going. We've got some new dwarves here as well. New hobgoblins, which I thought was interesting, and new goblins, as well as bugbears. Gnolls, everybody wants gnolls as a race, so let's talk about gnolls here. Con goes up by 1, and then increase either your strength or dex by 2. Dark vision, you have a bite attack. If you hit with your bite, you deal piercing damage equal to a d4 plus your strength mod. In piercing damage instead of bludgeoning damage. You gain proficiency with one of the following skills: perception, stealth, and survival. Rampage, once per turn when you make an unarmed strike using your bite attack or reduce a creature to 0 hit points with an attack, you can use a bonus action to move up to half your speed and make a weapon attack or a bite attack. So that is, originally I was like, this seems like it's kind of weak. You don't get a lot compared to other classes, but that rampage ability is on your turn. It's not limited to once a turn. It's on your turn. When you use your bite attack or drop a creature to 0 hit points, you can then move up to half your speed as a bonus action and then make an attack. You're only limited to 1 bonus action, but that's still pretty good. That's potentially almost an extra attack every turn. And you can use that extra attack to be a weapon attack or a bite attack. So you could, in theory, use a bite attack just to trigger an extra weapon attack later on. So we have some new racial feats in here as well. So let's look at the top one here, which is the Ariani High half-elf. Half-life, rather. It says elf. You get a wisdom or intelligence increase by 1. Resistance to necrotic and radiant damage. Advantage on death saving throws. And if you cast a spell that deals necrotic damage, you can choose to have it inflict radiant damage instead. That's a phenomenal feat. That might even be too much right there. Just right out the gate. Let's see. Let's check out the Envoy Specialist for the Warforged. Increase an ability score of your choice by 1. Proficiency with a tool. Choose one of the tools you're proficient with that weighs 10 pounds or less. An Artisan's Tool, Forgery Kit, Herbalism Kit, Poisoner's Kit, Thieves Tools, or a musical instrument. You have a working model of this tool integrated into your body. Your proficiency bonus is doubled when you make an ability check using this integrated tool. Nothing too crazy. And then we have Juggernaut Plating here. Strength or Con goes up by 1. When you use Integrated Protection to don light or medium armor, you can add your Constitution modifier to your armor class instead of your Dexterity modifier. When you use Integrated Protection to don heavy armor, you have advantage on Strength saving throws and Strength athletics checks to resist being knocked prone or moved against your will. While it's incorporated into your body, your armor can't be targeted by any effect such as heat metal against your will, which is really good. And then we're going to dive into class options. We don't have a ton of new classes, so let's go ahead and open this up. We've got, just close some of these. Class options. We've got a new Artificer, the Forge Expert, the Maverick. Why did that open? The Maverick Artificer, some new infusions. College of the Dirge Singer Bard, Mind Domain Cleric, Forged, Circle of the Forged Druid, and Monk Way of the Living Weapon. So out of all those, I think I'm going to check out the Druid because the concept of a Druid that's a Forged Druid sounds pretty interesting to me. So, starting at 2nd level, while you're transformed by Wild Shape, you gain the following benefits. +2 to your AC, advantage on saving throws against being poisoned and have poison resistance. You don't need to eat, drink, or breathe, you're immune to disease, and you don't need to sleep, and magic can't put you to sleep. While in beast form, your body is made of the same materials as a Warforged. Your muscles are root-like tendrils protected by armor plates. It's obvious to an observer that you are not a normal animal. So that's pretty interesting. Oh, and there is circle forms here as well. Starting at 2nd level, you can wild shape to transform into a beast with a challenge rating as high as 1. Oh, so it looks like it's pretty much going to give you the benefits of the Moon Druid here. Starting at 6th level, you can transform into a beast of challenge, Druid level divided by 3. So rather than the healing that the Moon Druid gets, you get the Skin of Steel. Then you get Elemental Fury at level 6. When you use your wild shape, choose one of the following damage types: Acid, Cold, Fire, or Lightning. While in your beast form, the first time you hit a creature with a melee attack on your turn, you can expend 1 spell slot to deal extra damage of that type to the target, in addition to the normal damage. The extra damage is 1d6 per level of the spell slot expended, to a maximum of 5d6. So rather than the Moon Druid spending dice to heal themselves, you can do it to kind of almost do like a smite effect. When you use this ability on a creature, your attack has an additional effect determined by which damage you choose, which we're going to go over in a second. If a creature is affected by this ability again in subsequent rounds, the effects do not stack, and the new duration replaces the old. So if you choose Acid, they must make a con save equal to your Druid save DC. On a fail, its AC is reduced for 1 minute by an amount equal to half your Wisdom modifier. At the start of each of its turns for the next minute, it can make another con save. On a success, it ends. Cold, at the start of each of its turns for 1 minute, they must make a con save. On a failed save, their movement speed is reduced to 0, and they have disadvantage on strength and dex checks, which is pretty awesome. Fire, at the start of your turns for 1 minute, they must make a con save. On a failed save, they take fire damage equal to your Wisdom modifier. On a successful save, the fire goes out. If the target or a creature within 5 feet of it uses an action to put out the flames, the effect ends. And then lightning is at the start of each of its turns for a minute. The target must make a con save. On a fail, it loses its reaction until the start of its next turn, and the first attack that it makes on its turn is made at disadvantage. At 10, you get Adamantine Hide. While you are transformed by Wild Shape, you gain resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, slashing damage from non-magical attacks. In addition, you gain the ability to use Wild Shape as a reaction when you take damage, and the damage from that attack is applied to the hit points of your beast form. I really like that. It's called Adamantine Hide. It doesn't make you immune to critical hits, but it reduces the damage, and you can use it as almost like a shield spell, but essentially just to give yourself a second set of hit points. And then at 14, Constructed Perfection. While you're transformed by Wild Shape, you can't be charmed, frightened, paralyzed, petrified, or poisoned, and you are immune to poison damage. That's pretty sweet because Druids, originally I was like, oh, Druids get immunity to poison damage, but that's not all Druids. So I really like this because it's interesting. Moon Druid, I've said, at least when I started playing D&D, everybody was playing Moon Druids. No one really played Land Druids, and there was no other options. So Moon Druid was what you went for. And I like this because this is essentially almost like playing a Moon Druid, but with a little bit of a twist, and I really, really enjoy that. So I think I could probably play this, and again, I've really only looked through this specific class, but I'm sure if I go back and look at the other ones, or re-look at them, because I read this first when I got it and I haven't gone back, that I'd like the other classes, subclasses, just as well. So next up, we're going to move into the concept of magic items. So we have common magic items, Dakani magic items, and dragon marks. And then lastly, we have some monsters. So let's talk a little bit about some common magic items. So there are a bunch of different magic items here, and I'm just going to touch on a couple. One that I really like here is this concept of the battle rod. And it's interesting because it's something, again, I feel like pretty simple you could add in. And it's the concept of basically giving cantrips and attacking spells, I think it's cantrips specifically, long range. So when held in hands, you can use the rod to cast cantrips out to twice the standard range. So it's common, it's unattunement, that's not bad. However, when you cast a cantrip beyond the standard range, your attack rolls have disadvantage, and other creatures have disadvantage on any saving throws made against your cantrip. So Firebolt using the battle rod, can be cast up to 240 feet, which is double the existing distance. But attack rolls against targets more than 120 feet away are made at disadvantage. And I actually kind of like that. It's a really simple way to kind of get spellcasters have similar effects as like martial characters would. That's pretty simple. And again, I think it warrants a common magic item. Something that I would give to my players pretty early on. And then we have these Dakani magic items. So these are, Empire of Dakan magic items. There's a lot of powerful stuff here, legendary artifacts and things. So nothing that I really wanted to touch on in this section. And then we have a whole section on dragon marks. So there are additional dragon mark focus items, which are going to improve the abilities you get from a dragon mark, if you're a dragon marked race. And then there's also additional dragon marks. So they have here a channeling wand. A channeling wand is a short metal wand tipped with Cyberus dragon shard. Each wand is tied to a specific dragon mark, such as the Mark of Healing or the Mark of Making. The channeling wand has 7 charges for the following properties: 1d6 daily at dawn, roll a d20 if you use the last one, on a 1 it's gone. While holding the wand, you can cast any number of your racial spells of the mark list, expending a number of charges equal to the level of the spell you cast. Your spellcasting ability for the spell is the same as your spellcasting ability modifier for the spells you can cast with your racial feature. As part of casting any spell of your racial spells on the mark list, or you can expend charges to enhance the spell. The range of the spell is doubled. If it has a range of touch, it now becomes 30 feet, so that's basically meta magic stuff for 1 charge. The duration is doubled to 24 hours for 1 charge, and a spell that normally has a casting time of 1 action can be cast as a bonus action with 2 charges. So this is fantastic, because this is basically going to give you meta magic without you having to be a sorcerer. And then this next one right here, or Dragon Mark Channel, we'll read that. Common requires attunement by a creature with a specific Dragon Mark. So each Dragon Mark channel is tied to a specific Dragon Mark, such as the Mark of Healing or Mark of Making. You can only attune to if you possess the Dragon Mark. While wearing a Dragon Mark channel, you can use it to cast any first level spell on your racial spells of the mark list. Once you use this, you must finish a long rest before you can cast it again. And you can go on and see there are all these things that are kind of boosting up abilities of how often you can cast. But then there are also ones that are pretty much just tied to specific marks, like Helm of the Sentinel. Oh wait, no, this is, oh yeah, for those who have Mark of the Sentinel, so you get the point. And then they have a section here on Cyberus Dragon Shards, which from what I can gather are Cyberus, are basically Dragon Marks that develop later on in life, and they get some other benefits as well. So if we look at the Dragon Mark of Healing, Cyberus Dragon Mark of Healing, you have advantage on medicine checks. In addition, you can cast the Mass Cure Wounds spell as a 6th level without expending a spell slot. Once you do so, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. And then they have a section here about the difference between the 2 Dragon Marks and then how to get them. Basically, they're saying in place of a feat or ability score improvement, or maybe there's an equivalent magic item. And then we just have miscellaneous magic items here. And there was ones I wanted to show. Oh, there's not a whole lot here, actually. So we'll look at the Gloves of Storing. While wearing these gloves and holding an object that weighs no more than 20 pounds, you can use a bonus action to stow it into an extra dimensional space. So this is really like literally there's nothing up my sleeves. These are like a bag of holding, but in glove form. When an object is stored, you can use a bonus action pull to your hand. The glove's weight is negligible, regardless of their contents. And yeah, and the typical bag of holding stuff. Then we have symbionts as well. So that was something introduced in Eberron, the idea of like a symbiotic magic item, but it's really a creature. So let's look at the Crawling Gauntlet. It's uncommon, requires attunement. When you attune, it surrounds your hand and forearm, fusing to your flesh. When you make an unarmed strike, you can slash with the talons. On a hit, you deal a d6 plus your strength mod. Additionally, you can project an ectoplasmic duplicate of the gauntlet, allowing you to manipulate objects at a distance. While wearing this gauntlet, you can use an action to cast a Mage Hand. And again, the art is fantastic. And then we're already into the monsters. And if you look here, there's not a ton. We have a couple of aberrations, a couple fae, a couple humanoids, a monstrosity, and an undead. So I'm going to just kind of skip through Valara because it's a challenge rating 23, and it's just going to be a ton of information. But again, the art is so good. We have the Forest Queen, again, another super powerful ability. We have the Forgotten Prince. I believe this is also a challenge rating 21. So we have a Meld. This is a challenge rating 6, so not so bad. Formed from the faded souls of mortals, husks whose memories have been consumed. They're typically harmless, but sometimes an aggressive nucleus gathers other husks, forming a deadly gestalt. In essence, a Meld is a fusion of half-formed ghosts. It has an amorphous shape with vague faces and limbs projecting from the mass, then consumed once more. So this is an undead. Has resistances. Typical undead resistance is acid, cold, fire, lightning, bludgeoning, piercing, slashing from non-magic. Immune to necrotic, poison, psychic, and most conditions. Can see into the ethereal plane. Can go incorporeal and move incorporeally. It makes 4 total attacks. Alternatively, it can make 2 attacks and use its conflicted soul ability. Its withering slam attack has a 10-foot reach and does 2d6 plus 4 necrotic. Conflicted Soul, the Meld causes one creature of its choice within 30 feet to make a DC 14 Charisma save. On a failed save, they suffer from the Confusion spell with no concentration required. Or Etherealness, the Meld enters the ethereal plane from the material plane. Then we have a different kind of Merfolk Stormcaller. We have a Quarry here, different kinds here. We have some extra Sahugin options, and that's pretty much it. You can see there is a ton of information here, and I obviously could have spent a lot of time going through Again, I think the classes are done very well. I think you'll find a lot of interesting magic items and the concept of other dragon marks, which again, as I've stated, is a way just adding dragon marked versions of races takes existing races we already have and breathes new life into them. So let me know what your thoughts are about exploring Eberron. As I stated earlier, the folks and behind Keith Baker's team did let me know they gave me 3 codes to give away copies of Exploring Eberron. So it's just a PDF copy. So I was toying back and forth on how to do this. So here's what I'm gonna do. Tonight, Wednesday, August 19th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, I'll be live on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/nerdimmersion. There's a link to that in the description, where I will be playing in my Rod of 7 Parts campaign. I play a character there, and it's run by Jordan with the silent PH in the middle. You may also know from YouTube. He's the DM, and we're going to give away one of the copies live during the stream. So this rewards people who want to show up live, watch, encourage us, and see what's going on. That's one for people who can attend the live stream. So, and then the other 2, I'll figure something out. I may end up just doing a Gleam giveaway, like, hey, go ahead and follow, and then here's how you get access to it. Or I may just do like a tweet and say like, hey, first person to respond as to why you tell me you should get this. So keep an eye on social media. Keep an eye in the description for the links. Again, I will be giving one away on Wednesday in the Twitch, in the Rod of 7 Parts stream, and the other 2. I think I'll probably end up just doing the Gleam giveaway, because I always feel weird about like opinionated things where I'm like, you tell me the best reason why you should have it, and then I'll give it to you. That's why I usually just draw people's names at random. It'll be a short turnaround giveaway. I'll probably start it as of you watching this video, and it'll run till Friday, and then I'll draw 2 people and shoot you over the copies. So thank you again to my patrons on Patreon for continuing to support me in the channel. Thank you again to Keith Baker Presents and team for sending this over for review purposes, as well as providing giveaway copies. And I will see you all next time.